If you are watching this video, you are probably interested in updating an assignment that you already use or potentially creating an assignment. And either way, I hope this presentation will be helpful to you. So first we need to begin by looking at what a library-related assignment actually is. And this really depends on who you ask. So for students, library-related assignments are assignments that directly reference the library. So if you require some kind of library component, they think, oh, I guess I have to use the library. But for faculty, right, we often assign presentations and research papers, all kinds of assignments that are supposed to utilize the library but don't directly reference the library. So we don't see a distinction between these two kinds of assignments, but students really do. So the reality of student research habits is something that really is going to influence how successful they are when using library tools. Many of the students that come in to your class have only ever Googled prior to coming to the university. And alongside this, right, they are going to have a fear of using library tools because they are so new to them. Students are afraid of looking foolish, and they are also easily overwhelmed by the complicated nature of library tools. Also, all of the students that you have are going to have knowledge gaps that often go unnoticed. We're very experienced in research, so we don't notice the things that once were very complicated, right? They seem easy to us now, but to students they seem very unfamiliar and very unapproachable. So in terms of designing library assignments, my first tip is to check your assumptions at the door, right? Technology is constantly changing the way libraries and really the rest of the world functions, right? And the way you research has changed a lot. So just because something feels familiar to you, or you have a method that you like to use, keep in mind that that's not necessarily the best way anymore, or it's maybe not the easiest way. And students are going to take the easiest way. Tip 2, evaluate your goals for an assignment, then break down those expectations. So simply stating that you expect your students to produce a good paper is not really a great way to communicate the skills you want to see them develop. Instead, talk about what you want in very specific terms. Do you want them to use a specific database? Then say you want them to use that database. If you want them to use a specific journal, reference that journal. And then number 3, reframe your perspective. If you are inexperienced with research, what would you need to know in order to be successful? Like I said, we do this all the time. It's second nature to us at this point, but they are coming to research with new eyes, fresh eyes, and if you want them to be successful, keep that in mind, right? How can you break it down so that they can actually understand and engage appropriately? So in the abstract, right, acknowledge frustrations before and after they appear. Use scaffolded assignments to help students build skills. Describe the significance of tasks and objectives, even if they seem obvious to us. And match assignment objectives to assignment tasks. Be explicit in your requirements and recognize student limitations and help them bridge the gap. These are a few examples that I am referencing and extrapolating a little bit. So if you have an assignment that's a bibliography or a scavenger hunt, my suggestion is to go beyond the point and click to encourage critical thinking. Now, when I say like the point and click, sometimes when we have scavenger hunts or bibliographies, we simply want them to figure out what it is, how it feels to find a certain item. Like, oh, I want them to use books someday, so I'm going to teach them how to use the catalog. But students don't find this very productive. They feel like it's busy work. So instead of making them find a random book, I suggest instead trying to make the need real. Giving them an opportunity to really dig into a subject that they're interested in rather than just saying, let's find this random item. The next thing I would say is highlight only the most valuable resources. If they're going to be coming in to do a tour of the library in a scavenger hunt, don't point out everything. It's going to be overwhelming. Instead, focus on the things that you think are most important and that they're going to need to know most. And, we can help you at the library figure out what those things might be. Next thing I will say is explain the significance of each item on the assignment. So if it's a bibliography, explain why you want a book like this or a journal article like that. If it's a scavenger hunt, explain why you've picked the items you've picked for them to locate. Next, thesis statements and research topics. When you are assigning things like this, my suggestion is to give them some parameters of some kind. The notorious Comp 101 paper is the, any topic in the world that works for you, and give me, 3 to 5 pages on it. And while that's great at allowing them to pick something they are interested in, it's also maybe a little overwhelming. Students then try to tackle things like global warming all in 3 to 5 pages, and they're not going to be successful in that. Also, I would say make gathering background research part of the assignment. This is really important. As experienced researchers, we know that we need that background information in order to effectively hone in on a thesis topic. But students don't have that, right? They have these big questions, and sometimes they think they already know the answers, and they're determined to write the paper using the sources that meet their understanding already. So having them gather background research helps check that misconception, and it can be really effective. Next thing I would say is vet thesis statements and research topics. Please, ensure that they can be successful at whatever it is they've picked. We see a lot of topics come into the library where students have they've created a thesis statement that they're really excited about, but there's not going to be any research available to them because it is so original. And while it's great to have our students thinking that creatively, we also want them to be successful in their assignment. And the next thing I would say is, stress flexibility. Students think once they have picked a topic, especially going back to that, a topic they're really excited in that maybe they can't be successful at, they think once they've chosen that, they've got to go with it. And we know that topics can change, and that is great, so just stress that flexibility. Next, scaffolded assignments are great for students. It helps them build skills over time, and it helps them, really dig into a research assignment. But when you are using them, I think it's really important to explain the process and explain the value. This is why we go through all these steps, and then this is why it's important to go through these steps. Students don't really feel like it's important to use library databases when they can find scholarly articles using Google Scholar. So instead we have to explain why Google Scholar is an ineffective tool, and why there are better tools, and why we should really get the best stuff using the best tool. I also think requiring a research log is great. I've seen faculty use this before, and it is a chance for students to almost create their own textbook, or at least a case study that they can revisit. How did I go through the process before? It was a while ago, I don't really remember. A research log can help with that. And then I would also say require a reflection. Require them to reflect on how they did their research, why it was helpful to do this, or maybe it wasn't helpful. Ask them to compare the results they get if they were using Google Scholar versus a different tool. That reflection is going to be really important in helping them, really internalize the skills that we're trying to communicate. Feeling apprehensive about getting started? That is totally understandable. I would be really excited if anybody would be interested in working specifically with me on collaborating on assignments. So please reach out to me. We offer in-person library instruction services, online information literacy tutorials, ready-made assignments, and student research consultations. And the student research consultations are really popular with students, and they seem to do really well with them. So you can reach out to me through email. Again, my name is Jessica Ramey Rhodes. And then online, if you don't have time to work with us in person, we also have a website that is supposed to highlight some kind of easy, quick and dirty tricks that you can work with. So if you are on any campus page and you hit Campus Tools in the center, libraries are right there. And then from the library's homepage, if you click on Help for Faculty, underneath the Help tab, there is Help for Faculty. And you can see we have lots of things over here, but specifically designing library research assignments, this is targeted directly towards this, and every sub-tab underneath as well. So, please consider this a tool for you, and it has my contact information if you would like to get a hold of me.